What's something you're able to bring to the part now that you couldn't have brought to the part if it had worked out 10 years ago?
That's a really good question.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Sydney, I fucking love this movie. Seriously, thank you for taking the time. I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you.
I'm going to tell you, for so many incredible actors, and I'm putting you in this category, I feel like the horror genre plays such a big part at the beginning of their career. You look at Jamie Lee Curtis and Johnny Depp and Kevin Bacon. I'm sort of curious from your perspective, why do you think the horror genre is so attractive to so many great actors sort of as they're on the rise?
I think because you get to push yourself to places that sometimes other genres don't allow actors to go to. I mean, our characters go through such otherworldly experiences, and it's a challenge because it's not something that you personally might have experienced, and that's really fun to push yourself as an actor.
Jamie Lee Curtis told me that basically she kind of dreads October 31st every year because of how people treat her. And Anthony Hopkins talks about how people treated him differently after Silence of the Lambs. Like, horror can change the way actors are treated by the general public. So I have to ask you, when this movie comes out and you walk into a church or you just casually stroll by a nun or a priest, how do you anticipate they're going to react to seeing you?
Oh my goodness. I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see.
I'm not gonna. I kind of want to be there when it happens.
I'll let you know. I'll let you know.
Okay, fair enough. So I don't want to get into spoilers, but I have to ask you about the last shot of this movie, which is not only, I think, the best acting of your career. I think it's one of the greatest final scenes in horror movie history. Can you just tell me what that day was like? What kind of places you had to go to in order to pull off that moment?
Well, thank you for saying that. That day was actually a really interesting day because we didn't have the location for a long amount of time and we were battling with daylight. So we were finishing up a few parts. We filmed on that location also, like the ending part of the catacomb where I crawl out. So we were finishing up and wrapping up that, and then jumped over to the final scene. And we were still playing around with where the best spot would be to film it. We didn't rehearse it. It was more of, okay, so I guess we'll start with the camera here and then we'll move over here and come back. And Mike, our director, looked at me. He goes, so what do you think? And I'm like, I don't know. Let's just roll and see what happens. Let's go with it. And
that was what happened?
That's what happened. That was the first take.
No.
Yeah.
Oh my, like, how do you go home after that? Like, what is, I can't imagine, I can't even imagine what day. So I'm going to cut you loose on this. I know you originally auditioned for this role in 2014, and at that time the movie fell apart, but you brought it back a decade later. I'm sort of curious how differently you think this performance would have been, this movie would have been, if you had gotten it 10 years ago. Like, what's something you're able to bring to the part now that you couldn't have brought to the part if it had worked out 10 years ago?
That's a really good question. I think that I'm definitely more confident in the choices that I make for my characters, and I feel more free and losing myself to the performance that I'm giving on screen. And also the script was vastly different because it was for a 15, 14, 16-year-old girl, and it was like a boarding school instead of a convent. She wasn't a nun at all, and we completely transformed the script so that it would fit who I am today.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, honestly, it makes perfect sense. Everything works. If you can't tell, I love this movie. I love talking with you. You're always so great. And seriously, I hope we get to talk many more times because seriously, I think you're one of the best working today. So seriously, thank you for taking the time.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.